Alma chapter 3. Mormon explains in this chapter why the Lamanites are cursed with darker skin. It wasn't because they were lesser beings. It wasn't because God didn't see them as human or of as much worth as anyone else. The reason was for Nephi's descendants and Laman and Lemuel's descendants to be able to distinguish themselves from each other, because the Lord didn't want the ancestors of the Nephites to be taught incorrect principles because of the traditions of Laman and Lemuel. So, to avoid the intermingling, he caused them to look different. Now, we know that the Lamanites, there are many times that the Lamanites are more righteous than the Nephites. And that just goes to show that regardless of how we're distinguished from one another, and regardless of what the traditions of our fathers were, we can still take truth and twist it and mold it and conform it to what we think we should be doing. It doesn't make it right. It just means that we have our own agency. Anyway, my point being is we're counseled all the time to not associate and support apostate groups. Now, we don't have like an explicit list of apostate groups, but I think any reasonable person who has the testimony of the restored gospel can determine for themselves what is apostate, or what is what would try to discredit and tear down the church. Now, I've said before that I'm fine having an open, honest, non-emotional, rational discussion with anybody. But people tend to get heated about these things. And especially this chapter, Alma chapter 3, people tend to take this as like racism. That we believe, people think that we believe that the Nephites were better or more human than the Lamanites, which is not the case. And this chapter talks about that. This chapter explains it, that it was to avoid the people that were raised with correct principles and truth, to keep them from being taught false doctrines and falsehoods, not because they were taught that the Lamanites were dirty or of less worth. It's just they didn't want to have people being taught incorrect principles. And back then, it was harder to correct someone when they were going away from the gospel, because they didn't have the scriptures readily available like we do now. It's easy now. We have copies of the scriptures that are accessible and correct, and they're the same across the board, whether it be a physical copy or a digital copy. The scriptures are available for us to teach correct principles more so now than they were then, and so it's easier when someone's exposed to false doctrines, to get them back on course, to help them course correct. Because we have the scriptures and the words of the prophets. So, no, the Book of Mormon is not racist. And it's clear about that. And it's also clear that the Lamanites tend to be, I would say, more willing to obey the commandments of God than the Nephites a lot of times throughout the Book of Mormon. So, to think that the Lamanites were worse people than the Nephites is erroneous. It's incorrect. And to think or even perpetuate that the Book of Mormon is racist is completely false. So, those are my thoughts.